You can either tell me something that you think is true, and then I'll ask you questions about how you determined your level of confidence in that thing. Another way we can do this is you can choose to not tell me, and you can write it down on a piece of paper, your belief, and you can put it in this envelope, and I'll ask you how you determined your confidence level, and we'll keep your actual belief hidden and secret until the end, and then we'll open it at the end.
Okay.
And I think the reason why we have those options is because I'm confident that this dialectic will work whether or not I know what it is.
Absolutely. Okay.
Was there any question I should have asked you but didn't before I open it up?
Not that I can think of.
Let's go ahead and open it then, yeah?
Really good list of questions.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I'm not sure that you'll know what this is because
You can read it to me. How about you read it to me?
So this is...
I just have to hit them every once in a while so that way they become different files, or else it's all one gigantic file and then I'm screwed.
Yeah. That does suck a lot.
Yeah, you don't want big files.
No, that's okay. This one.
Is it alright if I record?
Yeah.
Alright, awesome. Cool. Well, yeah, so there's 3 ways we can do this. You can either tell me something that you think is true, something that you think is real, and then I'll ask you questions about how you determined your level of confidence in that thing. Another way we can do this is you can choose to not tell me, and you can write it down on a piece of paper, your belief, and you can put it in this envelope, and I'll ask you how you determined your confidence level, and we'll keep your actual belief hidden and secret until the end, and then we'll open it at the end.
Okay.
And I think the reason why we have those options is because I'm confident that this dialectic will work whether or not I know what it is.
Absolutely.
And then the last option is to do the survey, and these are beliefs about how we form beliefs, and we can do 1 and 3 or 2 and 3 or however you want to do it. So those are the options.
All right. I think I have my pick.
You have a belief?
I'll write it down.
You'll write it down?
And then
Sweet,
at the
no
end,
one's
if
done
you're
this yet.
interested, we can talk about it because it's something I've been looking into for years.
Sure. Oh, this is exciting. I've only done this once before, but it wasn't recorded. So go ahead and write it, and I'm not going to look. And then when you're done, stick it in this envelope. And so yeah, just write it anywhere on there. And I'm just going to step away. Wow. All right. Alrighty then. All right. Cool. Sweet. So this will be like good practice for me. On a scale between 0 and 100. Where 0 is all I have are questions, no answers. And 100 is all I have are answers and I have no questions remaining. How confident are you that this belief here is true?
There are interpretations of this belief that make it difficult over the years because it's changed. But the way that I believe it exists and the way that I follow it as my version I am 100%
So you're 100%.
behind this, yes.
Okay. So I call this meta consent. If you were to find yourself tomorrow at 0, would that be existentially okay with you? Like, would you be fine with that? Or would you find that to be problematic?
I don't think I'd find it problematic, but I'd find it very interesting. Might get rained on with that one.
Oh, yeah. That one might get rained on. Let me move it.
Up to you. You think?
Okay.
Cool.
I'll move this one.
Yeah.
Some serious technology here, man.
It's a whole array.
What's going on?
Interview.
Oh,
Interview.
exciting.
It's an interesting belief.
I gotta find ways to record them, or else no one can see how it works. So there we go.
That's fair, yeah. No, it's difficult. I've tried to do a lot of like vlog type stories of trips, and it's very difficult to like, okay, we're gonna set up all the cameras and then walk through the doorway and then take them all down and then move them again. Like, it's a lot of work.
So if you were to wake up tomorrow and your belief was at a 0, would that, let's say, hypothetically speaking, the correct place to be, or the truth is that being a 0 is the right place to be, hypothetically.
And I found that I was vastly wrong. and
Yes,
misled. Sure.
that's exactly where I'm going with this. Yeah. Would that be something that you would invite? In other words, would you invite being corrected about this belief hypothetically if it hypothetically were wrong?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I would.
You would.
I
You
think
would like
that-
to find out.
Yeah, I think that this is a dogma that I follow heavily in my life, and to find out that I was misled, but that I was following something that was just factually not true, I think that I would be happy to know that I was
Okay.
at least on the right
That's the
path
answer I'm
forward.
looking for. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that if I'm digging deep into a belief that might potentially unravel it, I have no idea if my questions will
Yeah.
unravel it or not. I don't even know what it is. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that if I did, by mistake, even unravel it, that would be something that would be fine with you. And it sounds like you'd be fine with that. Because it
invite
sounds
the
like you value knowing true things and letting go of things that aren't true. So that's basically what that was about. Okay.
Yeah, with all the craziness going on, I think finding the more factual and truth things right now are very valuable.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see. And then final meta question before we get into the belief. On a scale between 0 and 100, or 1 and 10, or whatever scale you want, how important is it for you to believe in things that are true and real?
I think true and real can be misconstrued into a person's truth, because you can interpret a situation as,
What do you mean by person's truth?
if we were to have an argument, I would see my side of it, but not necessarily see your side in the same way. Both sides of that argument are true to who we were in that moment and how we responded and what we were aware of.
Okay.
But I'm not necessarily aware of all of the problems you might be having or points that you're trying to make.
So this is a thought experiment. I have a box of candies here. And let's say somebody were to walk up to our table, you and I. By the way, what's your name again? I'm so sorry.
Simon.
Simon?
Yeah, good, yeah.
Okay, cool. Hey, Simon. Let's say somebody were to walk up to our table here. And let's say Tommy. Tommy says that they're odd. And then Aaron comes up here, and Aaron says that they're even. Is one of them mistaken about whether or not it's even or whether or not it's odd?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it is verified by physical evidence.
Gotcha.
So that is a true statement. One of those is a true statement because there is evidence. But for something like a conversation, there's more interpretation based on history because there's no transcript And even with a transcript, the intention might be different than the spoken word.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. All right. And then, okay. All right. So, and it sounds like you're 100%. And so is the way you're thinking about this belief that if someone does not hold, let's say someone disbelieves in this belief, whatever this belief is, does that mean they're mistaken? Just like the Tic Tacs, whether they're even or odd?
Because it is a belief and there is less evidence that is concrete, physical, tangible evidence. I don't think that they're mistaken, but I think that the belief itself is somewhat exclusive to those who believe in it. And if you are not open to that experience or understanding the whole breadth of it, you might push yourself to disbelief before you understand everything. And I think that you may not be misled, but such as any belief system, if you don't give yourself an open mind, you will walk away from it sooner than you might have if you were to listen or examine the whole situation.
Are you saying that people, and correct me if I'm misunderstanding, because my goal is to understand.
Yeah.
Are you saying that our perception of this belief dictates the truth of it, or is impacted in some way by people's perception of it, or is it true independent of what people think?
I think it is true independent of what people think.
Okay, just like the Tic Tacs.
Yes, and I think that because it is based on evidence and it does create laws,
Okay.
or not laws, but rules. And I think that those rules are very evidence-based. I don't think that everyone who follows this would practice it in a slightly different way, but I think that such as being a human is, right? We'll all read the same thing and hear very different things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it is very evidence-based, and you definitely you can follow it without I'm blanking on what your exact wording was.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it is evidence-based. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. So let's talk about the scale some more. So you're currently at 100, though hypothetically, what could make it go even higher? What could make you even more certain or more confident that this claim here is true?
I don't believe that it is an aggressive claim, and so I don't think that
Is that another way to say it's a mundane claim?
it's more the way that I would be affirmed in it is to consistently live through life and go through experiences that on a small scale would affirm my beliefs as I live them and as I notice them. But they are not very outlandish beliefs, and so I don't think that much would push me to believe even more in them, because believing even more would not cause me to take action. There's no point that would change how I live.
It'd be a little too obvious.
Well, and yeah, and there's not much that would change how I live with more belief. It's not at a certain point I'm gonna wear a toga all the time or whatever. There's no next level. I think practicing in any level is already its existence in my life.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
And what would drop your number to anything lower on the scale? And even hypothetically? And try not to reveal, obviously, what the claim is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And I'm hoping it is a specific enough claim that it doesn't break the
Sure.
questioning.
And you're saying it's true, right? Like the Tic Tacs, like
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
And it's true for me and you, right? It's
Yeah.
universally true. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
it is universally true. I think that not everyone is aware of
Aware of it
the
or believes in it.
interpretation that it is taking.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay.
To drop my level of belief in it, I think it'd be very difficult because to me it's so based up in interpretation, but very aware of the human bias and lack of, we're not computers, we're not perfect in our interpretations, we're not perfect in how we listen or in how we act or live our life. And I think it's so flexible in its allowances and so general in its structure that I don't think there's many things, I can't think of anything that would particularly drop my belief.
Okay. Let's do a little exercise here. My claim is that this pen will drop when I let go. And let's say my reason for believing that it will is like seeing it fall many times before in the past and my ability to repeat the experiment. And let's say it's based on a foundation of knowing what not falling is. So if I were to conduct a test for my belief and let go of this pen,
Would not falling be propulsion in the opposite direction, or would not falling be a lack of weight?
exactly. So those would be ways to drop my confidence about my claim that the pen
Yeah.
will fall, right?
Yeah.
Something even as simple as this. And I'm hearing you say that there might not be such an experiment for this belief here. Is that correct? There may not be any way of even hypothetically dropping down the
Yes,
scale of
please.
confidence.
Okay, yeah. I don't know how you would, because again, it's such a general and soft guide to believe in and to interpret that it doesn't disbar almost anything. It doesn't put many constraints on you, and so it'd be very difficult to break or go against its rules. And it's very forgiving. There's no, like, were you to break something or go against it, it won't disprove any of it. It's more of a train of thought,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Okay. My timer ran out. Do you mind if I flip the dial again?
Sure.
Awesome. I'm loving the chat so far. I'm so
Yeah.
curious to know what it might be.
I don't know that it's something that is presently followed as much as it used to be, and even when it was popular, it was in a very specific area and somewhat, while widely publicized, lost to the time.
Okay. Well, I don't want to know too much about it yet because the reveal is going to be really sweet at the end. So here's a... Do you mind if I gently challenge this notion about the scale?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You've definitely heard of this without knowing any of what they've said.
Okay. Good to know. Here's a hypothetical for you.
Sure.
Can a person believe in something which is not true and have no way of falsifying it or sliding down their scale? Is that possible?
So believing in...
To believe with a high degree of confidence, let's say they believe it 100%, though this hypothetical person, let's say their name is Tommy,
Okay.
and Tommy comes here and says, I'm 100% mermaids are real. And I asked Tommy, what would you need to see to drop your number? And Tommy says, nothing. You need to show me an absence of mermaids. What would we think about Tommy's predicament?
I don't think there's a way to drop his number because he's at such a level with belief that though there are no mermaids that we are like, oh, they're not swimming in the ocean that we see every day. They're not, photographed. We don't have them in ponds or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not at a zoo. Even though there's no tangible evidence of them, I think that because his belief is so high, that he's transformed that belief into a faith of they're there, they're just not present in our daily
And
awareness.
what do we mean by faith?
Belief in something without evidence.
Okay.
Right? There's no tangible evidence that mermaids are real, but you can also not prove that they aren't real because though we haven't seen them,
Right.
we haven't seen them.
We
So
haven't
you
seen
can't
them.
say that they're not there. And unless you scour the ocean completely,
Right.
which is not done
All
yet
at the same time, too.
at the same
Because they could be
time.
moving around.
That's
right?
true, yeah. Which, yeah, unless you can do that somehow, there's no way to say that they aren't real on a Earth level. We can't absolutely say they're not real.
Okay. And just like the Tic Tacs, do you think mermaids are either the case or not the case? Like they either exist or don't exist?
I think that the way they've been presented to us definitely has taken mythological and whatever beliefs and interpretations over the years. They've been very mysticized.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they maybe are out there in the term of like mud skippers can walk on land,
Okay.
but I don't know that they can breathe air without being underwater. I don't know that that is necessarily like mermaids might be on some level in existence, but I don't know that they are like the magical half human, half fish type thing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right,
Like
right.
they could be there in some level, but like Loch Ness Monster might have just been like a whale swimming upside down with its dick out. Like that is a legitimate theory that they're like, this is a weird shape that we once saw. It must be a sea creature trying to kill us.
Okay.
It's hard to say that they don't exist because we don't have any evidence. We can't scan the ocean like that, but maybe they exist in some form that we interpret it some way.
When should we believe in mermaids?
Maybe starting at 1 or 2 years old. Just keep that belief alive.
Or like, what should cause a person to believe in a mermaid?
I think tangible faith or tangible evidence on some level of repeatable tangible evidence, because we've had things like all sorts of historical not antiques, fossils.
Mm-hmm.
Fossils that we've dug up where like this animal doesn't seem like it should have existed, it doesn't make any sense. Or same with fossils of old, like even very old ancestral, like early humans. We're like, well, this person doesn't really make sense, or why are they here? But then we find more of them and it starts to become evident that, okay, there were people living here, or there were tools. Once there's evidence that's tangible and on a repeatable scale, where there's at least 3, 4, 5 of them, then we can start saying, okay, these are real. This is a scientific founding behind it.
And when should someone accept this belief?
When
Or what would cause someone to accept this belief? Same question.
when they've heard it and they've decided that the statements it makes are true.
When they've heard it and they've decided that the statements it makes are true?
Yeah, when they've read it or been told about it or something like that, and they've realized or looked at the statements and decided through their eyes there is no false statement that it's making, and no statement that it makes, though they are general, is incorrect. Like, if you look at something and you're like, okay, well, this, if it said this pencil will never hit the table,
Yeah.
you might be able to bit like, well, maybe not. But if I said, okay, this pencil is going to hit the table, it probably is. And if I do that with 100 different questions and you agree to all of them and say, yeah, then whether or not you believe in the whole system as a one single unit, you agree with all of the pencil droppings that each one is true, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can choose if you believe in the whole thing, but each one is true, and at that point, I think you get to choose if you decide to believe in the whole thing as a labeled collection of truths.
And just to be clear, there isn't a scenario you can imagine in which this claim could be false. There's no scenario, there's nothing that you could come across, even hypothetically. And then keep in mind, your imagination is endless here. You can come up with anything.
Yeah.
Anything. I'm hearing you say, and correct me if I misunderstand you, nothing at all could ever happen to drop your number. Is that right? It'll always be at 100 no matter what. Is that what I'm hearing?
I honestly believe that there is nothing that I can imagine that would drop that number, because the statements are so general, and they're not rigid in their structure. Exactly. It's a very up to interpretation, but the interpretation and I think the meaning that I draw from it, there is nothing that can drop my faith in that, because as much as it is somewhat faith, I think there is evidence to what I believe in.
Okay.
That brings it to be a tangible practice in my life.
Okay. And earlier in our discussion, and my timer ran up one more time, so I'm gonna flip that one last time. It's the last one, hopefully.
I'm enjoying this. So.
Okay, good, awesome. Earlier in the discussion, I remember asking, like, how important is it to believe in true things and as few false things? And what number did you give it again? Did you give it the? I think I asked you a scale question about it. Did you answer that? I can't remember.
I think I answered it by asking what your definition of truth was in that statement.
Oh yeah, and
because,
we talked about the tic tacs and even and odd,
yeah,
being correct versus mistaken.
If there's tangible evidence, I believe it's very important to be to believe in tangible evidence, because you have some backing to it. If there's
Yet I'm hearing you also say that if there isn't any evidence, that's also fine.
I think that it's important to understand that it's okay to believe in things that don't have tangible evidence if you understand that that has become faith in a concept or idea. Like, you can have a hypothesis about something that may or may not be true, but it's your belief until you have tested that theory and found that it is either true or it is not true, in which case you can look at the answers.
Should we believe in our hypotheses before we've tested them?
I think you have to have faith in hypothesis to take your time out of your day.
And correct me if I'm wrong,
practice
you
this.
defined faith as believing without evidence. Is that
Yes.
right? Okay.
So until it is tested, I believe it's faith. But once it's tested,
Should we believe our hypotheses before we've tested them?
absolutely. I don't think you can get to a actionable point without some level of belief. You are really, if you're really nervous about a belief and you're really wavering on if it's true or not, I don't think you would find yourself in a position to be quite so actionable, because you'd be nervous about the results. But if you were believing that, again, this pencil will drop, right? You really believe that it's going to happen. You'd say, oh, well, I know it's going to happen. I should test it just to make sure.
Right.
Then you have an actionable point where you can say, okay, well, it did drop. I know that that's true. And if it didn't drop, then you can examine what you believed in the past. So, okay, where did I go wrong based on the evidence? And if I did go wrong, why might I have believed something, or why might I have been misled?
Okay.
Right.
Let me think for a second. I'm gonna think of something. It's raining hard now.
Just in that one spot.
Yeah. Okay.
So I apologize. I'm sure I'm not wording these things in the most concise way.
No, it's fine. I think I feel like I'm hearing you. I'm just trying to piece together what my questions should be. And it's hard because I rarely do this without knowing what it is. So it's like I'm trying to figure out like.
I was wondering if you'd run into that today.
Yeah, no, I haven't.
Many people have chosen that.
No one's chosen that option yet. Let me think. Is faith a reliable way to know true things?
Faith leading to scientific testing is the only way that we have learned anything.
So you think faith is required for science?
Absolutely.
And you're defining faith to mean belief without evidence. Is that right?
Yes.
And so you think scientists believe without evidence?
Yes. I think they believe without
Can you give me an
evidence.
example?
You have to believe before you can make a whole testing apparatus and get money together and time and energy, and before you can get this whole process down, you have to figure out what you might be testing and have faith in a problem to be deeper than a very simple answer. You have to believe that that problem requires proper testing.
Right. So you're equating having a hypothesis with positively believing.
Yeah.
Okay. What is a hypothesis?
A hypothesis is a untested theory
Uh-huh.
that you aim or define as clearly and concisely as possible right before you go to test that thing. And so in it, you would define your control variables and all of the different things you're trying to test and weed out as much uncontrollable information or variables that you can so that you can test these theories, ideas, or concepts in any type of science.
Okay. And you're using the word believe to mean what?
Belief is to trust an idea before you've reached the point where I guess it starts with like a very small belief, and you can either choose to have faith without evidence and acknowledge that there's no evidence, and you either, if you'd like to test it, you can, but you can have faith in something without evidence. And if you believe in something with evidence, it would be an affirmed belief, or a
more justified belief?
Yeah, like a belief backed by evidence, or a belief, affirmed by something. I wish there was a third word to separate those two, but it would, I guess, belief being a thought or a concept that would, with evidence, be a belief system that you live by, or a rule that is affirmed by a test. And without a test, it would be faith.
Okay. Should other people, do you think, be confident to a degree of 100% based on faith for other beliefs?
I always encourage people to do their own research and testing on any belief.
Let's say they don't need testing,
or-
they just need faith, and they use faith to get 100. Do you think that would be okay for others to do?
Depending on the thing, yes. I think if it
Let's say it's a
can-
fundamental belief that informs their politics.
I definitely think because politics can impact other people, they need to do research to maybe sometimes the best thing is to not think about yourself and to worry about the people who are having less than you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to do that, but I think that sometimes you might, for the morally best choice, right, for a society,
You're good. You can
would
walk
have
through.
to
Thanks.
research what the best choice is for the most amount of people. But then you end up with the same situation as one person versus 5 people, and there's a train coming, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, if they're on any side of that track, will choose to send it down the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, it looks like my time is just running up for the third dial, so this will be my final question for the magic envelope thought experiment. So this is the thought experiment before I open it. Imagine for a moment that this envelope is magic and it's never wrong. And it always judges whatever belief is inside. And it reveals whether or not it's true. And earlier in the discussion, you told me you would be fine with discovering that it was false if it was false, hypothetically.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's say we open it up, we look inside, and I do declare it actually says it's false.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it says it's not true. I'm wondering if you can come up with a hypothetical to explain why it was both false and you nonetheless believed it anyway.
Okay. If it were to be false, I would have believed in it due to the fact that the experience in my life has greatly affirmed the beliefs or the statements that it's made.
Mm-hmm.
And while it might be false or could be proven, I don't want to say could be proven false because I just said it couldn't be, but to my knowledge couldn't be proven false. If it was deemed false by this envelope,
Yeah, it's a magic
Then-
envelope. Yeah, so it just
then I would be very interested to find out
why.
what section and why, because
Mm-hmm.
the parts that I have been affirmed to, I've always held to, even before I found this thing. And even if some part of it were false, I would still follow many of the rules.
Okay.
Of
You still follow some of the rules just because you find other reasons outside of the belief being true to follow it.
Yeah, I think that
But what was
parts of it could be, I don't know how you test it, but could be deemed false if this were a magic envelope. Parts of it could be deemed false, but I think because it's a combination of many statements, so many of the other statements would still provide value to my life, devoid of one statement being false. If that makes sense.
Okay, and just to be clear, you kind of addressed it briefly in the beginning, but what would be the thing? What was the explanation for why you would have nonetheless believed? Because there are external reasons other than the truthiness or whatever of the belief. There are other reasons to be doing or practicing the fundamentals of whatever this thing is.
Yes, yeah. So there's many. A lot of the reason I believe in it is because many of the things that it touts were things that I believed in previously to even finding it. and I held to for many, many years beforehand, and only after I found it was it just affirmed the things that I was already following. And none of what it says is ever meant to be or ever written as concrete definitions. It takes an approach that allows the user to have interpretation, whereas many belief systems out there, I don't think, they put so many rules that are very yes or no, you can or can't do this. And it's much more open to interpretation and humans being messy, messy creatures that make lots of mistakes in their life. Okay.
Was there any question I should have asked you but didn't before I open it up?
Not that I can think of.
Let's go ahead and open it then,
A
yeah?
really good list of questions.
Awesome.
And I'm not sure that you'll know what this is because
You can read it to me. How about you read it to me?
So this is a belief system called the 120 Supreme Mathematics.
Okay.
And it's a analyzation of society, and it is also a breakdown of rules to live by, to live a better, cleaner, more giving life to yourself and to others, to further yourself to become a god, where it believes that each person can be a god rather than in a single, and it also doesn't clarify, or it doesn't specify that there is only one God. It says that we all have a piece of God in us, as we can create and destroy as people. And so to become that, you have to have an awareness of yourself, and you have to follow these lessons, which are very simple lessons. Many of them are just stay clean of mind and body. And that can be an interpretation where you want to keep your nails clean and your outfit and your just not be dirty and have good hygiene, or that can be not do excessive drugs. But it doesn't ever say that you can't do those things. It more tries to keep you of a state of mind where you're aware, in my interpretation of it.
Right. And earlier, just before this, we revealed what it was. You mentioned how even if it were revealed to you that it was false, you would still practice the principles within it. So I guess if we just took all the principles within it that you would still practice even if it were false, and we removed them from the full total belief, what would be left? The God is within us part?
It is,
Okay.
If you took all of the lessons out, there's kind of the practicing, which is the 120 lessons, and then there is the belief part of it, which is the part where God is within us all, and that we can elevate ourselves to that by learning about ourselves. So they call it knowledge of self, and you learn about yourself and you're given these lessons, and by practicing these lessons you become a more aware person. And it breaks down that, and I hope I get my numbers right here, 85% of the people in life are only ever just going to be consuming people. They are going to live and be just, it's unfortunate that this term has been used so much as of late, but it defines them as just sheep. Of just people who live and graze and do their thing, and they're never going to be historically having an impact. They will build and operate all of the cities, but they won't necessarily, start a war, or they won't, have a global impact or something like that, which is totally fine, and it doesn't make them lesser. There's also a group of people within that who are called the savages, who are people who will do anything to bring themselves up financially or what they believe with power, but they will do that in any way they see fit, even taking from other people. And then there is a percentage of people called the poor righteous teachers, who their focus has always been, they have attained knowledge of self, and some of them have become gods, and they have focused on trying to enlighten the sheep and help people learn about themselves and become a better version of themselves. And then there's a section of people who are gods who attained knowledge of self in order to create a specific thing, whether they were a painter or an art, like a musician or something like that. They have always been focused on something very specific. Where they're like, I need to bring this concept or this thing into the world. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't know if I'll have the finances, but this has always been my goal. So some example of that would be someone like Kurt Cobain, who at like 10 years old was like, I need to make this music. He already had an idea of what he wanted to make, and was already driven to do that exact thing. And there are many, many other people like that, like Da Vinci or something, or Van Gogh, he just wanted to paint. He didn't really care. And he ended up being very poor because of it, but he ended up being a great artist, but only after he passed away.
So the claim is the societal breakdown and lessons of the 120 supreme mathematics.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was trying to make it very specific, but
Sure,
it's
well, I'll have to look into it later, I guess, and figure out how that is pieced together. I like to end all my interviews by just generally asking, like, how was it? What did you think about it? And do you have any questions for me at all?
It was great. I guess
you can keep this.
It was great. I think it's really fun to have your ideas challenged.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that people shy away from far too often.
Far too often.
Especially
indeed. Well, I commend you and your bravery in stepping up and sitting down and explaining what it is.
Yeah.
And taking the road least traveled with the magic envelope. I've been wanting to do that one for a while.
Good. I was going to say I hope that was more of a fun thing than an obnoxious thing.
No, it was fun. Yeah, it was certainly fun for me anyway.
Yeah.
Any questions for me at all? Wide open book about why I do this, or about your belief, or about anything in particular? And you don't have to say yes.
How did you find this? That you wanted to make a chart and follow this around your life, taking it all over the place?
Well, I read a few books, and I started watching some YouTube channels that essentially do something sort of similar to this, and I was inspired to do it my own way. Yeah. And I'm trying to encourage others to do the same thing, to help people reflect on why they believe what they believe, to help improve our national discourse.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't think that there's enough people who are willing to sit down and have their thoughts challenged at all, and instead they're just like, I'm just going to go find the people who believe the exact same thing.
Yeah, echo chambers, right?
Yeah, which is terrifying.
Right.
It's absolutely terrifying, because you can say anything and everyone will agree with you, and that level of just almost forced like narcissism and eventual nepotism is scary. Like,
you can choose one of these 3 puzzle pieces, as a parting gift. And the idea is that if you find me again in the wild, we'll do it again, and you'll build out the set. And there you go. And it's a little squeezy stress ball thing.
Nice.
So have fun with that.
Very fun.
Anything else?
Should I fill this out now? Or should I give it back to you when that's filled out?
You certainly can fill it out, and maybe if we ever do a part 2, it would be about your epistemology, and that's what this survey is about. And yeah, we can certainly do that. Though, I mean, it's up to you, but I feel like for now, I've been here since like noon, so I think it's like, what is it, 4 or 5 now?
Probably.
So I've been listening to people and asking questions for like 4 hours now.
It's a good time to quiet sauna, probably.
Yeah, I want to do that.
If you made it this far in the video, then you probably enjoyed it. Please provide a like and comment below as to a part where I could have made this conversation more productive. If you do so, please provide a timestamp and enjoy another one of these videos you see here on the screen. Thanks a lot for watching.
Wrap it up over here. What was your name again?
Simon.
Simon, that's right.